wealthy douchebags are some of the most insecure losers that I've ever met in my life. I also did security at a Mexican club which had like gang members. And I remember the leader of the Latin Counts gang being like a generally charming, nice guy, which is weird, right? But I also remember a car dealer who sold Lamborghinis who was at the yacht club being like the most insecure loser piece of crap. And I just thought like, wow, this is what humanity looks like. Like this is what drunk, successful adults talk and look like sometimes. Like it was just very eye-opening.
Well, it's the land of the free and home of the brave. Stairs in the house of the community. But leave them alone and what they're gonna say. With the clean back, like and Marcus here to stay.
This is a representative, representative of some Texas. It's a Texas whiskey.
This looks pretty awesome. So, do you drink this?
I do drink it.
It's going into the glasses.
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Go. Cheers, brother.
Cheers. Thank you.
And it's all Texas grasses, which you would never know.
Whoa, this is super good,
isn't it?
Yeah. Why is this so much better? What is in here? Because sometimes you drink a whiskey and you're like, it sounds like something I'm going to clean my hubcaps with it. Yeah. This is almost like slightly sweeter, but there's also almost like a cinnamony flavor going on.
Yeah, so I think so too. It's on the note. You get a lot of that vanilla-ish, and you don't get the fire until it's down your throat already.
No, this is
you
super
get just
good.
A little bit though.
Wow. No, this is super good.
Well, enjoy, brother.
Thank you.
Well, with all that experience at a young age too, how much did that help your strategic communication skills? Was it something that you kind of learned on the fly? Because I know a lot of it was, I know you're just interviewing people and there were some places where obviously you didn't speak the language, although there are many that you do speak 5 languages at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and being a communications expert, do you think a lot of that is foundational and based on just having that kind of cultural experience?
Yeah, for sure. I think so, because when I was an exchange student in the former East Germany in the 90s. And I got placed in Germany. I was really excited about it. And then I found out I got placed in the former East Germany, and I was really upset about it because I was like, I'm going to be in some former communist dump. This sucks. I'm 18 or 17, whatever. I want to go like party it up in Europe. This is bullshit. I was so angry. And then I found out that they had placed me. Oh, yeah. So originally they had put me on a farm. And I was like, absolutely not. That's the last straw. So I said no. And the organization that places exchange students was like, it is a major red flag for someone to turn down a family. And I was like, I'm not turning down a family. I don't know them. I'm turning down living on a farm. You got to put me in a city. It doesn't have to be Berlin, but that would be awesome. Put me in a place that has like running water. The place where I got placed, I'm sure, was very nice. But yeah. They put me in Halle, which is a little like Detroit type city in the former East Germany next to Leipzig. And I went there and I was like, I had the biggest chip on my shoulder and I fucking love that place, man. It was awesome. This was the best year of my life, hands down, as up until my kids were born or something. It was just awesome. I got there and I was so pissed that I was in former communist East Germany. I'm going to hate every second of this. It was amazing because it was so different. But when you're 17, you don't want that. You want to like live with some rich people who party on yachts all the time. Of course. You don't know what you want. You're a dumbass kid.
Yeah.
So I'm living with a family. It's 2 teachers. They had a son. Me and him didn't get along. We are thick as thieves now because he was also an only child. So we're like brothers. I just went to his wedding recently. And it was awesome because I remember early on, my host father was a teacher, but he was also in a band. And he always talked like back when I was running the band and when it was communist times, they had to finagle everything. And I was not used to that. I was used to like doing things by the book. You know, you're the Boy Scout dude. You got to do everything. What is it? Dot your I's and cross your T's and mind your P's and Q's, whatever some alphabet metaphor. And I remember one of the first days I was there, my host father was like, all right, we have to go get you some kind of visa or something. And I was like, all right, I think I'm okay for a while, 90 days. He's like, let's get it out of the way. So we go into this administrative building and he's like, their line is insane. And he goes, what do you notice about this line? I was like, it's long. He's like, what else? I was like, I don't know. He's like, everybody looks quite different than you, huh? You're part German. And I was like, okay, sounds a little racist. Where are you going with this? And he's like, I don't think we need to wait in this line. I was like, okay, that's very un-German of you, according to my stereotypes, but let's see what you got. He walks in and like sort of does one of these on the door. And the officer's like, can I help you, guy who didn't wait in line? And he's like, I got an American here. Does he need to wait in this line? And the guy goes, give me 5 minutes. And he does whatever he's doing with this woman who is from Syria or something, right? And then he goes, come on in. He goes, United States? I go, yeah. He goes, why? High school exchange student. He goes, okay, passport. He goes, all right. And he goes, and like stamps in this nice visa that's like a 1 year visa for whatever it was. It's still in my old passport. I should probably take a look. And that was it. And because he was like, I don't have to background investigate this guy. He's not making an asylum claim. He's not going to get a job. So I was like, wow, how did you know we didn't have to wait in that line? He goes, let me tell you a story. He goes, he goes, everything's flexible. And I was like, well, but it's Germany. Aren't you guys like the most by the book of anyone? He's like, well, when I wanted to get my driver's license back in like 1968 or something, Cold War, East Germany, he goes, the process was as follows. You take a driving class, but you can't just sign up for the class. You got to sign up for the wait list. And then you take the class, and it's about, like a year-long wait list. You take the class. You can only go to class when you have class, and then you do driving stuff, and you got to pay for that. And then when you complete that, which takes months and months and months after waiting months and months or even years to take the class, then you get a little paper. And you take the paper to the police and you drop it off at the police. And then the police take their time and they wait months and months and months and months. And then they finally go, I approve of this, and they stamp it. And then you go months and months and months and months and you go to the place where they get the DMV, whatever it is in Germany.
Yeah.
And then they just take your paper from the police that's got the stamp from the whatever. And then months and months and months later, they give you a driver's license. And then you can get on the wait list to buy a car, which is also like 5 years long.
Oh, good Lord.
And I was like, good old fashioned efficient communism, right? In an occupied state
drive when
from
you're
the
30.
Soviet Union. And he goes, here's what I did. He goes, I called my cousin in Canada and I said, send me a case of Jack Daniels. And the guy goes, okay. So the guy sent him a case of Jack Daniels and it arrives and there's 10 bottles left because the 2 came out from the customs guys because that's how that was done. So you get your case, but 2 of them are taken out for the guys who inspected the package. They want to make sure you're not drinking poison, so they're going to drink a bottle each themselves, right? And then you get the case and you take the case to the driving school and he goes, hey, I kind of know how to drive already. And the guy goes, well, show me. And first of all, he goes, you got to take the class, and he puts the bottle of Jack on the guy's desk and goes, show me. So he does the driving test and the guy goes, good enough. And so he gives him the paper and he goes to the police station and the guys go, this is going to take 6 months. And he goes, thunk, and puts a bottle of Jack Daniels down for each of them. And they go, did we say months? We said come back tomorrow. We got to get the stamp from the guy who has it and it's locked up right now. So then he comes back the next day and he's got his thing. We're going on 3 days right now instead of 3 years.
Yes.
Right. Already cut off the time. He goes to the DMV and he's got his papers and he goes stamped and they go, all right, we have a 6-month backlog. And he goes, how's this for a backlog? And he puts a couple bottles of Jack Daniels on the counter and she says, okay, well, let me laminate this for you and you can leave with your driver's license. So he leaves with the driver's license and now he's got his thing and he goes to the wait list, where the car thing is, and he basically repeat the process and he ends up with that. And it's he just greases the wheels. And I go, you mean to tell me that you cut years off a waiting list and a driving course and a police approval with 8 or 10 whatever bottles of Jack Daniels? He's like, well, it was 7. We drank the other 3, right? And I was like, hopefully not while taking your driving test. But that just shows you, like, I'd never heard of anything like that happening in real life. And I'd never seen anything like that happen in real life. Sure enough, of course, when I lived in Mexico and Panama, I saw plenty of that later on, Bosnia. But like, I had never, as an American guy from Michigan, it never occurred to me that you could just find out what people wanted and they would flex or bend the rules for you. So that kind of dictated like the rest of my life in many ways. I didn't want to bribe people or engage in corruption because I didn't have to. Like, he kind of had to survive in a communist regime that was actually authoritarian. But I was like, wait a minute. There's ways to apply these principles to my high school career that I'm kind of already doing. Like I graduated from high school in 3 years, but I had to take certain classes in Germany. And then they had to send a certificate back to my high school in America that said I took those classes. So I went to the principal and I said, look, they need me to take, I brought Jack Daniel's Snow. I went, I have to take typing, history, and art. And he goes, what if you do art and I just say that you can type because you type up some documents for me because we don't have a typing class? And I was like, that sounds good to me. Because he's like, we can't have you not graduate high school because of the lack of a typing. That's insane. Right. And you're going to learn history in your class anyway. So whatever, I'll just sign off on this. And I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. And then when I went to college, I remember I didn't like any of the degrees because they had all these really hard weeder courses that were impossible and graded on a curve and yada, yada. And they were all miserable. And I was like, is there any way around this? And I asked my high school or college career counselor, guidance counselor, I said, are there ways like nothing suits my interest exactly. I want to do this. I want to do this mix of things. And he goes, you can create your own concentration, but you have to have it approved by the Academic Standards Board and me. And I was like, all right. So I made my own concentration and I named it whatever I wanted. So I made it sound really fucking impressive. And then when I applied to law school, they were like, we've never heard of this concentration. And I was like, I made it myself. And they're like, oh, you did the individualized concentration program? Only 2 people a year do that. And that made me look really special.
Yeah.
And then
good negotiator.
Yeah, exactly. And they were like, they appreciated that. And then I didn't get into the University of Michigan Law School initially. I got waitlisted and then they closed the wait list and they were like, sorry, good luck with your career. And I wrote to them and I said, and I wrote a really well phrased sort of legal formatted thing with the help of some of my friends that said, I know I'm qualified to get in because I was on the wait list till the very end of summer, but your class is full of really qualified people. What if you let me in now for the next year class and I'll just defer my legal education by 1 year? And they were like, this is a novel idea. We're going to accept you. Congratulations. You're into Michigan Law School. And Michigan Law School is number 6 in the whole country. It's still in the top 10. And I got in after not getting in because I just had a novel solution to this particular problem.
Now you got to, again, stop claiming that you're not a creative.
Yeah. I suppose.
I'm serious. I suppose
you're right. Now
brilliant.
that you put it, we all put it in one place. And even for the bar exam, they said, if you want to take the New York bar in Michigan, you either have to fly to New York and take the course in New York, or you have to take a video class, same 2 hours every day, pay rent in Ann Arbor for 2 hours of watching a VHS tape, take notes, and then study for the bar in Ann Arbor. And I was like, this is going to ruin my whole summer. I should be able to study for the bar wherever I want. This is 2006 or something, 2005. How the hell are we not able to do this on the internet?
Right.
And I said, what if I don't live in a jurisdiction that has a bar review course? They're like, you live in Ann Arbor. No problem. I go, oh, but I'm moving. They go, where? I said, nowhere in America. And they were like, we need to see flights and hotels or we don't believe you. And I said, oh, so I booked a flight and a hotel in a Caribbean island. And they were like, you son of a bitch. So they sent me an iPod with all the audio lectures. And they were like, we don't like it, but we can't legally say no because it was kind of like there was some sort of rule / policy because they can't make it so you can't review for the New York bar. Like that's and it's a hardship that's sort of
it's prohibitive.
It's prohibitive.
You gotta be fair.
So it's like you're just telling me I can't take the bar exam if I'm a person that lives on a Caribbean island. I'm just out of luck. And they're like, we know what you're up to. And I was like, prove it, bastards. You know, I'm already paying you $8,000 for this bar review course. Just send me the frickin' iPod. And I remember they were like, this is a special iPod, and if you plug it into your computer to try to copy the files, it's going to notify our office and we're going to sue you. And I was like, I'm sure Apple let you just reprogram the whole iPod firmware to do some magical shit.
Especially now, you're like, no, everything's primitive as hell. Yeah.
Sure, pal.
Yeah.
So I just sat there on a Caribbean beach and listened to my iPod lectures and studied.
So you
for the
did?
bar.
You went to the Caribbean after all?
I did
I may as well go.
I had to book a ticket, and I took a law class in the Caribbean because they were like, you can't just go on vacation. I was like, I'm taking classes. So I went to a couple law classes on the island of Curacao, like immigration law, asylum law. It was awesome. And then I took the New York bar exam, and I just remember being like, how did this work out for me? Like I am incredibly lucky that this worked out for me. But also it's a matter of thinking of solutions that are outside the box, but still within the bounds of the system.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff like that in life, man. There's a ton of stuff like that. And if you can program your mind to look at that, you read the fine print. If you can program your mind, this is I shouldn't talk about this, but I'm going to, and I hope podcast one doesn't get pissed off at me. Some shares vested, and they're subject to a 6-month lockup. We're going to repurchase them from you. And I was like, all right, when? They're like, well, after the 6-month lockup. And I was like, what is the lockup for? And they're like, well, it's an SEC rule. And I said, but isn't that for shares that are only going to be sold on the market? And they were like, no, it's for all shares. And their lawyer was like, actually, if you're selling them privately, it doesn't apply. And I was like, that's what I thought, because I ChatGPT'd this, and that's never wrong. And I was like, but ChatGPT told me, is this accurate? And they were like, no, you're right. There's no lockup. And I was like, so when should I expect your check to repurchase these shares that have now vested and that are not subject to a lockup? And I know that the finance guy was like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah,
you know?
per your own attorney.
Yes, per your own counsel and ChatGPT, which again is totally never wrong about anything. You have to repurchase these now, or I'm going to sell them on the market, immediately. So, go ahead and let me know.
And it's not manipulation if you're looking for creative ways into doing something that you actually are going to follow through with. You're not trying to rip somebody off.
Yeah, it's not a rip off. They're my shares. I know you guys don't want to pay me cash for them right now, but you kind of have to.
Yeah.
And here's why.
I mean, yeah, you want to hold on to my money for 6 months. Well, of course you do.
Yeah. What's in it for? Why wouldn't you want to not pay me for 6 months? Like I completely empathize. However, I am not signing up for that.
So this is something I haven't heard you talk about, but I understand that you were involved with doing some security at some point.
Yes.
And that's kind of in one of my wheelhouses as well. And I'm curious, did that involve any manipulation or tongue twisting or to get into that industry? Because you also got into an industry where it was more on the protection side than the standing guard side, right?
That's true. Well, I did a lot of both. Like I did a lot of like being a bouncer at a yacht club, which was eye-opening because wealthy douchebags are some of the most insecure losers that I've ever met in my life. I also did security at a Mexican club which had like gang members. And I remember the leader of the Latin Counts gang being like a generally charming, nice guy, which is weird, right? But I also remember a car dealer who sold Lamborghinis who was at the yacht club being like the most insecure loser piece of crap that would be like, you're going to talk to my lawyer. And I'm like, dude, I'm 20. Who are you trying to who are you trying to impress / who are you? Am I intimidating you? Because I'm a kid.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? Like you're drunk at a bar, you're 50, you're divorced, you're drunk at a bar. Like I'm checking my watch. Like it's 2:00. You don't have anything better to do tonight, dude. I'm at work, but I'm a child, like you're trying to front for a kid. You're so pathetic. And I just thought like, wow, this is what humanity looks like. Like this is what drunk, successful adults talk and look like sometimes. Like it was just very eye-opening. But yeah, I to get into that industry, I got in kind of by accident because I worked at a movie theater in a wealthy suburb, and it was owned by a billionaire pizza magnate who also owned the Detroit Red Wings hockey team. His name was Mike Ilitch. He's not around anymore, but his daughter owned this movie theater. And so I worked there, and I don't know if they had theft, loss, whatever, but basically Mike Ilitch is, since his daughter owned the place, he sent his personal private investigator to do some security at the theater sometimes. And the guy was like, he was bored because he's like a qualified investigator who does like close personal protection for a billionaire. And he's standing around at a movie theater in the suburbs. And it's like, what the hell are you doing here? So him and I would talk, and he liked martial arts and karate, and he would like show me wrist locks and stuff in the back hallways. And it was awesome. It was really cool. And he's like, you got to meet this guy who runs this security company in Detroit. And he ended up putting that guy in the movie theater security because he was like, I'm sick of this crap. So he hired that guy to run security. That guy and I would be talking about stuff or doing wrist locks or whatever in the back hallways too. And I remember this is like mid 90s, 1996 or something, 19 whatever.
Okay.
And I remember he was like, I need a website. Do you know anything about that? And I was like, I can make websites. So I made him a website, and he was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I've got a website. This looks like the future. Right. And so I made it so you could send text messages to the guys' cell phones from the website. I made it so you could email the company from the website. I put the phone number up there. I made it look badass, put photos. It was dope.
Yeah, 96. That's a $6,000 job.
Easily. So, and he was like, that was the thing. I was like, I'll take a mix of cash and training, because he knows like gun stuff and all this real karate stuff that nobody was teaching me at strip mall karate, where I'd gotten my black belt in like fake in bullshido or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So I was driving down to Detroit and I learned all this stuff like shooting, defense, disarms, all this cool stuff. And then he was like, hey, do you want a job driving my guys to work? Because a lot of them were like either carless, driver's licenseless, suspended license, or like felony DUI, but now working off the. So I basically became like the transporter for all the staff, and I drop them off at their venues. And then since I was reliable, he was like, "Can you collect the cash from the guys at the end of the night, and then give it to me, and I'll pay the team?" Because he's like, you don't want to give somebody who's like maybe got a record and working there for 2 weeks $3,000 and be like, bring that to the office and I'll give you 10% of it, which is your share.
Yeah, that's a big thing, especially when it's cash.
I mean. So he's like, this white kid's not going to steal my money. And if he does, I know where he lives and I know his license plate number. And like, I've known him for a year. So I was like collecting the cash, driving the guys around. The other thing was, since I had an SUV and since I also was white, this is just an uncomfortable truth, I didn't get pulled over in Detroit, like ever. I had a nice car and I was a white dude driving around in a downtown area. It looked pretty normal. Yeah. Our guys would get pulled over constantly because they're wearing a bulletproof vest, and I was the only white guy at work. They're wearing a bulletproof vest and they're driving a beater, and it's like, where are you going? Right. Oh, I'm going to work. Why are you wearing a bulletproof vest and a bomber jacket and you have weapons in the car, but you're a felon? Like, you get out. We're searching the vehicle. So we just kept all the guns in the trunk and, unloaded. Yeah. And I was driving the car and I never had anybody pull me over. And so it was easier to get the guys to and from work. And I would wave at the cops like, hey, and they'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, it was like, you can do that. And so
flaunting your privilege.
That's right. Flaunting my privilege. What was funny though, was the cops were also black. They just pulled black people over more.
And Detroit notably is a lot better these days, but in 96, Detroit was a really bad place to be.
And I was on Van Dyke and East Jefferson, and our clubs were on the east side and the west side. Some were in Grosse Pointe, which is the nice area. That was the yacht club.
Okay.
But most of them were in the hood. And there was Club International, which was like down by the Rensen. These are not safe places.
Yeah.
And so I started to work at those types of venues too. So yeah, I had to do a lot of smooth talking. But when I started doing security at the dangerous places, that was all smooth talking. Because I remember guys would be like, you're not tough. I'm going to break this bottle over your head, white boy. You're not going to do shit about it. And I'd be like, man, I understand why you're angry. I'm not here to cause you any hard time. Like, I'm just doing my job. I also don't want to be here. You're lucky you get to have a drink here. I got to stand here all night. And he'd be like, you know what, man? Why don't I pour you some champagne? My bad. And I'm like, yeah, I will. You can flaunt your ego and all that. Like, I don't care. I'm not here to like tough guy challenge you. I'm earning minimum wage. Not true, but I'm earning a multiple of minimum wage. Standing it here, watching all you guys have fun. I'd rather be at home playing Xbox. Well, that didn't exist back then, but Nintendo. Yeah. And like there was a lot of that. And I remember one time my boss told me like, you're handling this stuff pretty well, because what would happen was, since I was the smallest and only white guy on the whole team, what would happen is somebody like that would walk up to me and one of the other guys would walk up behind him. And if I didn't de-escalate, all I had to do was go, all right, have a good night, sir. And that meant choke him out. So there were guys where they didn't want to hear what I had to say. And they would be like, I'd be like, all right, sir, have a great night. And then before they could react, some dude who's like 6'6", 345 pounds would wrap him up by the neck and throw him out the front door, or down a flight of stairs or whatever it is. So like, but I didn't want that outcome. I would rather de-escalate the situation because there's not always going to be a giant dude there waiting to choke out the person who's threatening me. So I learned a lot about de-escalation. I learned a lot about like violence, because you see a lot of real violence when you work at a dangerous place like that. You see people get shot. You see people do like curbside beatdowns that are just severe. When you come from a suburban high school where everybody's like dad is a plastic surgeon or something, or an auto exec,
sheltered.
Yeah, you don't see like a fight is like, oh man, Tom's got a black eye. Oh, they're hanging out again. Yeah, they handled it. It was fine. They've been friends for years. They just got pissed off about some girl or something. This was like, that guy's never. Is he alive? Like he just got stomped so hard by 7 people that he's dead or he's close to dead. And
So-
I saw a lot of that. I was like, ooh, real violence is scary.
If you go back to the point in which you were negotiating or at least de-escalating and talking to these guys and then recognizing their humanity, we've had this conversation before. I think there's some beautiful things there, but I don't think a lot of people take the time to do it. I'm not saying you didn't do it as a defense mechanism, but between those
Exactly.
experiences that you learned around the world and the experiences that you spent there de-escalating, and then in short order learning that this dude's kind of a dude and he was just a front and he's got as many problems as anybody else. How did that stuff carry into your ability to start teaching people how to communicate? Or I guess my question is, of that you took forward, how much of that is a natural skill? And do you think you could teach certain adults all this, or is it just a lot more of a nature's course?
I think you can teach it, but I think you can't teach it in a seminar and everybody goes out and does it right away. I think you can have conversations like the one we're having, and then people go, okay, I need to learn how to apply this. And then they start practicing it. And then in a few years, they're like, oh, this worked for me. Right? Like I remember one of the reasons I was learning these things at work so often was because, for example, the guy who wanted to break a bottle over my head and was trying to show how tough he was, I was like, what was that guy's problem, to my boss? And he was later on in the night. And he goes, did you notice the size of that guy? And I said, yeah, it was like 5'5". And he goes, yeah. How do you think that guy feels walking around the club as the shortest guy in the club? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, he feels like a loser. So since he's drunk, he probably has no girl, right? What is he bothering you for? He's not with girls. He needs to put himself above you in the hierarchy, and he does that by being a threatening piece of crap.
Mm-hmm.
And you let him have that because it didn't cost you anything, right? You let him put himself as the cool guy who's just going to have mercy on you and pour champagne for you and hang with you. You let him do that. The other way he was going to do that was by trying to beat your ass. And, but you redirected that. And I was like, oh, okay. Didn't really notice that, but he sort of, now that you put it that way, that makes sense. So then when that happened next time and the next time and the next time, I simply did the same thing. And it didn't always work. Sometimes the guys are too drunk to listen to reason, or they're like, nah, I kind of rather beat your ass. I feel like that's the solution for this problem right now, or whatever. Like I remember one guy, like this was an old man who drove a super fast sports car. This is at the yacht club, obviously. And he elbowed me in the face because I told him he couldn't come in the bar because he was wasted. And then I was like, oh, I can beat this dude's ass right now. But then I was like, what is the purpose of this? It's going to cause an issue. It's going to cause a conflict. It's going to cause a problem. And a lot of people saw it. And so what I did was I said, look, man, I'm not going to hit you back quietly. And I said, but what you need to do is apologize loud enough for everybody else to hear. Because if I let you elbow me in the face without an apology, these guys are all going to do it. And what that's going to mean is I'm never letting you in this bar again. And he's like, I know the owner, blah, blah, blah. And I go, do me a favor. Apologize loudly enough for everybody to hear, or you're always going to have a problem with me. Always. And I'm going to call the cops right now because I know you're trying to drive home in your car. I got your license plate. You're going to drive home drunk. I'm going to make sure you get caught. Yeah. And he was like, you see his eyes widen because he's probably on his 3rd fucking DUI, this piece of crap, or he's driving without a license, Right. And so he apologized loud enough for everyone to hear. And then he got in his car, and I'd already called the cops anyways because there's no way I'm letting a guy drive home that drunk. So I don't know if he knew it was me, but hopefully, he ended up just spending the night in the drunk tank. But that was the strategy, because it was like, I can either get my status back and get my authority back as a bouncer by mercilessly pummeling this 50, 60, 70, however the hell old he was, drunk hell, guy who's 5'2", and that's going to always be an issue, or I can just handle it that way. Because I don't care if I look a little bit schmucky at a yacht club that I'm not going to as a 20-year-old kid. Who gives a shit? This isn't my hang. I'm not trying to impress these divorcees. I don't care. what I need is for my authority to sort of be respected enough that not all of these guys try to be front and hit me in the face whenever they get upset about something. That's all I need. I just need
perceptive enough at
compliance.
20 to see purpose over ego, which is saying a hell of a lot.
It was tough. It was tough because what I remember many times I wanted to tell I was like, I should have beat that guy's ass. And my boss is like, no, you should not. Yes, you could have. What happens when that guy comes back next week because his girl broke up with him because she saw his ass get beat? Now he wants to shoot you. And I was like, oh yeah, that wouldn't be any good.
Yeah. Or lawsuits even. I mean, it's brand damage. It's all kinds of things that you recognize down the road.
Yeah. And the club owners don't want somebody their staff beating the shit out of somebody in the venue.
Right.
Some club owners think it's funny, but it's only funny until the lawsuit gets filed, right?
Yeah.
Against the venue. And then it's not funny.
A justifiable one in that case too, because you could articulate now what the alternative was. And yet you decided to.
So de-escalation is the way to go, man. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter if you can actually handle. Plus, man, once you see enough real violence, you realize like, oh, I'm bigger than him and I know karate. That doesn't mean shit when he swings wildly with a bottle of Cristal and hits you in the face. Like you're still the one who got bottled. Yeah. Bad shit happens to tough guys all the time. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
And all that training stuff, they always say the worst thing you do is underestimate the skill of your opponent.
Of course.
Or the tenacity or the whatever. There's always going to be somebody that you look at and say, well, he's only 5'5" and he's drunk and he's going to climb you like a monkey and choke you out. Yeah. Even though you're skilled. I mean, that person exists. So
it exists. And also, like, I don't want to have to look over my shoulder for this guy for the next zillion times I come to this club.
Right.
Why do I want an enemy in this club? I want to see that guy next week and go, oh, hey, what's up, man? Good to see you again. And him go, oh yeah, hey, what's up, man? You know, how you doing? Like, that's what I want.
It's old school.
Man, we had this problem at the Mexican club all the time because the guys would go in there and do cocaine and the owner would be like, kick out the guys doing blow. And we kick them out and then she'd let them back in because they were like her nephews or something. We're like, make up your fucking mind, you know, kick everyone out or just not that it's your family that's doing the blow, you know, like the gangsters are behaving.
And they all feel like they're Superman. So that's the worst time to ask me to kick them out too. Because they all feel like they're invincible now. Why don't you get me before they do that?
So what we did is we made friends with the gang leader. The reason the gangsters were behaving was we made friends with the guy who was the gang leader. And we said, can you just, if your guys want to start fights, can they just fight each other? Don't fight my guys. I got to pay their medical bills. Yeah. I need them to work. Like they're just doing their jobs. And the guy was like, yeah, that's fine. If they want to fight, they can fight each other. They can fight the other gang members. They can fight the civvies. Like we don't want any trouble. We're just trying to secure the venue. That's it, man.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Doing my job.
Leave us alone. And he was like, all right, cool. So those guys would, when they would get really drunk, they get real aggressive and the guy would go up and be like, hey, nah, not him. That was it. I never had to fight those guys. I had to fight like drunk old guys. I didn't have to fight young gangsters. They knew better.
Yeah.
They were not allowed to fight us. It was the 45-year-old like midlife crisis guy who'd had 15 Modelos. Those guys were the ones who
forgot
started
how many
shit.
Birthdays he'd had.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, you just threw a chair at me. First of all, that didn't even hurt. Now I'm just mad. Like threw a folding chair at me, and or a half empty can of Modelo hits me in the chest. Like, it's a bulletproof vest, dude. What are you doing?
So moving forward, and we talked earlier about how underappreciated entrepreneurship is.
Yeah.
That everybody feels like they can start a business and they all just want to borrow money to start their first venture and there's no sweat equity and everything. And you went on after that to actually build a business and had your radio program going on, built it up with some partners. And I've had the experience before as well, building a business and not paying myself for 2 years. And then by the end of the third year where I'd started paying myself, had, a bunch of my employees conspire with a client and, steal contracts and all. So I'm just telling you that because this is why I'm so compelled to ask you this question is how did you, having been such an integral part of building that and putting in all that sweat equity and getting to the end, how did you avoid digging a few shallow graves and filling them and moving on that way versus how did you find the resilience to just kind of restart from scratch, knowing that you've been screwed essentially? Yeah, I definitely got screwed. So yeah, I was really upset at first. And I remember also being the most scared, the most stress was being scared that I wouldn't be able to rebuild something, like anything. I thought like, oh my God, 11 years down the drain, I'm never going to catch up.
I don't know how to be we were first to market. It's hard to grow a podcast. It's going to be impossible. Yada, yada. I was worried about that.
So you were more in distress than being pissed?
Yes. I was still angry, but I was also like, my lawyer and some of the consultants and a lot of the people that we'd worked with, I reached out to my network because I'd been big on building relationships over the years.
Yeah.
So I did like 140 phone calls or something with people that I trusted and liked that were smart. And one of the recurring themes was the biggest part of the company is the fact that you do the podcast and that you do the sales and that you do the branding and marketing and that it's your face. So they're like, the most valuable part of the company was you. So you're not losing anything because they can't remove that. They removed you from the company and they flushed the equity and the brand value down the toilet, but they didn't actually destroy the thing that you have. And I was like, that's a really good point. But I wasn't sort of egotistical enough to be like, I'm the most important guy in the company. But enough people pointed it out that I was like, I can rebuild something because everybody said that that was the value. So I just started the Jordan Harbinger show from the ashes of that old show. And I took the entire audience. I mean, that show, I could see they don't know this, but I could see the stats of the old show because I had friends that worked at the hosting company and I just asked them to send me monthly reports. And you could see the downloads went down like 90%.
Wow.
After I left. And then all of those people, my downloads went from, 0, new show, to hundreds of thousands pretty much right away. The other thing that happened was, and they didn't expect this, and one of the things they sued me for, which they lost on this count, was I called the advertisers and said, FYI, I have left the company, so I will no longer be the one who's endorsing your product or service. I can't ask you to come with me, but I would love to have your support in the future. I'm over here. And they were like, whoa. No, we're paying you to endorse our product or service. So they took their ad dollars away from the previous show. They said I poached those people, but I had it all in writing.
They're claiming it was a no-compete violation of some sort.
But they didn't have a non-compete because they couldn't afford to buy my shares. So they couldn't enforce the non-compete. They tried to do that, but the judge was like, if you want to enforce this, you got to buy the shares. Oh, we're going to buy those shares. They missed every deadline. Yeah. And the judge, they were trying to argue that I was competing in despite of them providing notice. And my lawyer was like, he doesn't have to stop competing because you provided notice. If you want to take action and give my man a check, then he will stop competing with you. But until then, you're all blow, no show, all hat, no cattle, go suck it, right?
Yeah.
And the judge agreed with that as well. The other thing is my network, Podcast One, just shifted all the ad dollars from the old show to the new show. And the reason that, and then they made a huge mistake and they sued Podcast One, and Podcast One was owned by a guy named Norm Pattis, rest in peace. And he was a friggin' dog, man. And he was like, I loved him. He was like, oh man, you sued me? That was a mistake.
Bad idea.
So he countersued and they were like, oh my God. So they settled with me right away because Norm Pattis was like, I am going to bury your grandchildren with this lawsuit. Yeah. And they were like, oh, and I said to Norm, if I get them to settle, will you drop your suit? And he was like, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I just want to see these guys bent over. So I called them and I was like, I can get Podcast One to drop the countersuit that you guys stepped in. Yeah. If you settle, I know you can't afford to buy my shares. So they ended up giving me all of the intellectual property, everything that I wanted from the business. They couldn't afford to buy my shares, the business. And I was still like annoyed. I was like, I'm so annoyed. I wish I could do something to them. And my lawyer said it best. He goes, you have done the number one worst thing that you could have done to your previous business, which is leave it in the charge of these two guys. Because they're lazy, entitled, and no talent ass clowns. And he was right.
Yeah, and karma doesn't really help in a lot of the situations. You know, if you would have gone on and done whatever, whether it failed or succeeded, obviously it's succeeded. Yeah. But the karma part is less of the focus once you're hyper focused on what you're doing. Most of those cases. Is that true?
It's true. Like, would I have loved to see something horrible happen to those guys or whatever? I honestly not real. Like, part of me is like, that would have been great. But also I just didn't care.
Right.
I was like, I'm too busy focusing on moving forward. I don't have time to like wish bad things on you guys. Like, I don't even care. And also, I also know, this sounds like very weird philosophical maybe, but I also know that like from their perspective, or it's mostly one guy, he was doing the number one thing he felt that he had to do, which was preserve his ego. Speaking of ego protection, yep. He was preserving his ego because what he couldn't stand was if I left and succeeded without him, what that proves to him was that he wasn't required for me to succeed. And that broke something inside that guy.
Right.
And so me succeeding was like the best revenge I could possibly get, because that was his worst fear, was me succeeding without him.
Was revenge any part of your motivation to start?
No, I was trying to survive and build a business and do what I love.
You'd already jumped out of the plane. You had to figure out the parachute.
Exactly. So the fact that it also like put sand in his crotch for the next several years, and I know it did because we have mutual friends that are like, he still complains about you for 8 hours a day. And I was like, Jesus, I think about this guy like twice a year.
Yeah.
You know, holy smokes. It's pathetic, right? But my new company was more profitable in the first 8 months than the old company was in the peak of its existence.
That's amazing.
So it was really obvious that I had simply dropped the dead weight and moved on.
Yeah. And it says a lot about you too, in terms of the talent and the gumption and all that kind of stuff. But I'm curious too. You've mentioned stuff about being critical of people who will go jump into something with no plan B or whatever.
Yeah.
And don't let me put words in your mouth,
Sure.
but I've heard you talk about that. And I find it interesting because I'm the guy who gets myopic on something, and I've done the same, career changes and just jump into things that are out of left field.
Mhm.
And then I get so myopic that I feel like if I have a plan B, I'm screwing myself because I'm taking my eye off the prize.
Yeah.
Yet I completely understand the logic in what you're saying. It actually is a mature thing for you to say. And it's kind of an immature approach on my part, unless you have the personality that just refuses to quit.
I think there's something to that, but I don't know if I always say don't do something if you have a plan B. I think I think what you're hinting at is when I'm critical of, especially like online influencers will say something like, burn the ships and go all in. And I see these young guys who are like 21 and they're starting some bullshitty drop shipping business that they bought a course about. And the other person, the influencer's like, burn the ships and go all in, quit your job as a waiter and go all in on your business. And I'm like, no, all you're doing is limiting. If you have a job that pays your bills, you should absolutely never quit that until you are up and until your only bottleneck on scaling your business, which is hopefully now stable as a side hustle, is your time and effort.
Right.
Otherwise, what you should do is work that job indefinitely, and then you have unlimited runway for your side hustle. What are you doing? Don't quit your job. Now you've got, 3 months to create a functional business? What the hell are you thinking?
Short-living it.
No. Keep your job as a server and keep your drop shipping business 1 hour or 2 hours a day on the side.
Yeah.
And then when that thing starts making more than you're making as a server, then quit your job and use that time to scale that other business. What the hell else are you doing? So these influencers, they give these they say stupid crap like burn the ships and go all in. And it's like, no. You should have something stable so you can muck around and toy with different risky ideas.
Yeah.
And if the risky idea doesn't work out, it doesn't matter because you have your day job. I've got a buddy who was a semiconductor engineer and he makes millions of dollars selling sheets on Amazon. Okay. And he didn't quit his job as an engineer. And I said, why? And he's like, eventually I will. I just have to convince myself that my business is not going to magically implode. And I was like,
sustainable.
It's sustainable. And so he eventually quit his job, but it was actually really smart because if you're making millions of dollars selling something on Amazon, all Amazon has to do is decide to make an Amazon Basics version that's $1.50 cheaper than yours. And you are going to lose everything.
Right. All your eggs are in one basket.
Everything.
That's a tough one.
I had a lot of friends who were internet marketers back in the day who would do these like long, convincing sales letters, and they were making millions of dollars a month. And then Google went, you know what? We don't like these. They kind of pollute the internet. The search results are annoying. They're kind of bad businesses. They're run poorly. They rip people off. People are blaming us for surfacing them in results. All right, find websites that look like this and just deprioritize them. And these people went from making $2 million a month to making $20 a year.
Yikes.
And they just made shit.
Yikes.
Because Google was like, nah, no thanks. I think it was called the Panda update, and people were calling it like the Panda apocalypse because it was it was called Google Panda, and it just was like, we're getting rid of all these shady fly-by-night video sales letters. Those guys, I remember envying the shit out of those guys for years because they'd be like, Jordan, let's go to Vegas. I just had my first $10,000 day or whatever. And I'm like, what? How are you doing? So I was like, I got to get into this business. They're like, we'll show you how to do it. It looked shady. I didn't really want to do it. I was working on my other business. Those guys, I remember the day they were like, dude, are you hiring? because I got to work at McDonald's or something. Like I don't have any skills. My sales stuff, my sales copy stuff is over. They couldn't pivot. They didn't get warning. Google wasn't like, hey, FYI,
Right.
we're going to shut you guys down in 6 months. It was like one day their sites just weren't up.
And it's interesting because
surfacing.
as fast as I tell you that I'm the guy that jumps in, I've also given advice to close friends or family and too said, don't quit your job, because I also feel like the hustle is missing from people. Everyone's coming out with a new program to figure out how to work less to get more, which is it's a beautiful concept.
Sure.
And that's everyone's goal. But, from the jump, you got to put in the time. I said, if you really love the idea of what you're going to do, you're going to be a musician, you're going to be a whatever, that's great. Keep your grocery store gig or whatever. And if you really, really want to kick ass, you'll still spend 8 or 9 hours a day doing the other thing on top of your job because that's how bad you really want to do it. And you'll figure it out. And that I appreciate that point is that then you have an actual runway. You're not under the gun to where you have to basically pull up stakes after 3 or 4 months because you went bankrupt already.
I think it's the stupidest idea. You should only quit your day job when the limit on scaling your other business is time. That's it.
So what about AI? Do you think AI is going to flood the market with all of these same types of questions, especially in the creative industries? You see the jobs getting taken away, and in the industry that you're in, it's very human centric, obviously, but I think even podcasting is moving in that direction. What are your sentiment on that?
I think so. You can have a really good podcast that uses some AI elements. Like I'll dump all this crazy amounts of notes from like a book, a movie, a TV show, a YouTube video, and I'll put it in a document. I used to spend like an hour trying to figure out how that's going to look. Now I dump it into ChatGPT and I go, organize this in a way that Jordan Harbinger would organize it for his podcast. And it comes up with something that's like 80% there. And I move the rest of the stuff around myself manually and add my personality to it. And it saves me like an hour and a half. Or I'll get a book that I don't want to read because I've already read 3 of the other guys' books, or I don't have time and I've done 10 hours of research, but there's another thing that came out and they only got it to me 3 days before. I'll be like, read this whole book and see if I'm missing any key points in my current edition of notes. And it'll go, oh, well, he does talk more about his time in prison in the book, and you don't have anything on that. And I'm like, all right, craft me a 10-minute segment about that. And I'll maybe use some of that in my work. I don't think that we're going anywhere soon where there's going to be like an AI version of me that's better than me. That's unlikely that it's going to that a real human's going to want to talk to a robot interviewer. And also AGI, which is like what people think AI is, artificial general intelligence. They keep saying that's around the corner, but I know that that's bullshit from people who are industry insiders.
Really?
It's like 50 years away. It's not 5 years away. And if it's even possible, which I'm sure it is, but it's like I'll be dead by the time that's good.
Really? It's fascinating.
Yeah. If you look back at, I'm doing a whole show about this, but if you look back at AI research, they had AI research in the 60s, 70s, 80s. It was not what it is now, but they had it.
Mm-hmm.
There are deserts where they go, can't really do much more with this for the next several years because the limitation is we actually need 1 billion times more computing power. And that's just not going to happen anytime soon. So then it just sort of sits there all through the 80s, through the 90s. And then in the 2000s, they're like, look, we can do like 100 million times the amount of computing power. And it's like, okay, all right, that's a big leap. And then they go, but we kind of need like to 10x that. Well, okay, now you have 1 billion times the computing power. It's just super expensive. Well, we actually need like 100 billion times. So it's just, the requirements for these neural networks goes up and up and up and up. And they can't solve problems like AI hallucinating. They don't have the ability to do that because it's kind of like a feature, not a bug. That's kind of how it works. So in order to fix that, they're not close to fixing that. They don't know how to fix that. The top AI researchers don't understand even fully how it happens because you can't look at a neural network and see how it came to a conclusion. It's just not how it works. It's not a math problem.
Philosophically, truth is not finite either in a lot of cases too. So it makes it even more complex to come to a conclusion.
So they can't really figure out exactly how to solve this problem. All they can do is say, fact check this, does this, and you can do that, and it goes again and again and again and again and again, but it just takes more computing power to do that. And it can't create things. All it can do is take things that humans have created already and reorganize them. It's like a very fancy autocomplete or autocorrect.
Yeah.
and it can do that with the power of Google, but it's not close to being like a thinking conscious machine. And that's what you need in order to have a good conversation with somebody. There are AI podcasts now, and they sound pretty real. The voices and stuff are good, but it's still missing something, and it's really boring. And the reason is because it just can't do what humans do.
Yeah, it does sound really contrived.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be like me going, I have questions that I want to hit that I've skipped 90% of anyway.
It sounds like my podcast did in the beginning, where you're like we didn't have AI then, but I'm pretty sure people would have gone like, is this guy real? He's not. This is not interesting. This guy's not good at this.
Well, you've interviewed people from, art forgers to Nobel Prize laureates. What direction do you plan to go in the future? And has the direction that you're taking the show changed since you've been doing it so long now and you do it so consistently? Has your purpose behind the show changed over time?
Yeah, I mean, it used to be about how to meet women and stuff back in the day. I used to just talk about dating and relationships, but then I got interested in body language and reading people and talking with certain people and criminals or investigators or undercover cops or whatever like you. And that became more my focus. Now I don't really talk. I mean, I'll do like a once a year episode on dating or something. It's kind of fun, but it really don't focus on. I follow my own personal interests, and that's been actually kind of a secret weapon. People are like, how do you manage to stay engaged with so many people of so many different types? I'm just really naturally curious about those things. If I'm not interested in a topic, I can't really fake the curiosity. It's really hard. I'm not a good actor.
Great point.
So I just won't do the show. If I read a book and I'm like, that was kind of boring, I just cancel the show. And my wife's like, well, you read that whole thing? And the answer's no. And my show booker's like, you read the whole 10-hour book? And the answer's no. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? But I can't fake it. It's not good. It's not fun. It's not interesting. I don't want to do it. And so, I really follow my own interests. And that's been, again, a superpower because I don't have to like pretend to be excited about something. I am excited about that thing. And then after the interview, I never want to see that person again because I've already read their book and spent 10 hours watching all their videos. And I'm like, I need a break from you for 90 days.
Yeah. Your time organization is impressive with the amount of shows that you're doing. 3 shows a week. Mm-hmm. Is that right? 3 shows a week and millions of downloads every month. Yeah. And that's impressive because I would know, and this is one of the things I truly appreciate about you, and I really do mean it. I'm not just pandering.
You're fluffing me up good. Flattery will get you everywhere.
Is the fact that you do your research.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you've been interviewed before where you sit down and you're like, these people obviously don't know anything about, so you get these surface level things that happen.
It's the worst.
Yeah. So I appreciate that about you, and it's got to be insane putting in that kind of time. But I think that's a reflection on your work ethic and stuff too.
That's true. And thank you for saying that. It's true. It's kind of like you would not go to court being like, hope they don't ask me about this. You know what I mean? Like, that's bad. You would be disbarred if you practiced law like that.
Yeah.
And so I don't go into an interview being like, God, I hope they don't notice that I don't know what this person does or did or anything about it. That's going to go poorly. My audience is pretty smart. They're going to know if I came in and I'm just bullshit. And the guest is going to sit there and be like, you don't even know how to pronounce my name? Are you sure you did research about this?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. So I try to be really conscious of that. And you're right. I would say one of the worst interviews I've ever been in, I went on, it was like an online one, and I went in the Zoom room or whatever it was, and the guy goes, are you interviewing me or am I interviewing you? And I was like, tell me you've done no preparation without telling me you've done no preparation.
Please tell me you're a comedian, because that's got to be facetiousness coming out of your voice,
and
right?
I was like, and I remember going like, you're interviewing me, just knowing that the next 45 minutes or however long it was going to be the most teeth-pulling, painful, annoying surface-level conversation of my entire life.
Yeah, and you could make it work. You've got guests, I'm sure, that have a great gift of gab, but you can still tell it's just not authentic because they're having to fill in all these gaps. And, this interview has gone every direction that my notes don't say.
Yeah, I know. You sent me some things. You sent my wife some stuff like, here are the topics I want to discuss. And I was like, no, sir, not today. Like, swipe them off the desk. Like, I'm going to start by talking about irrelevant things and I'm never going to shut up.
But I love it. But that's the point. This has been a conversation and I quite appreciate it. One last thing is, and this is probably a question you've gotten before, but I actually do want an answer because I'll make it a little easier on you, is what guest or guests have affected you or taught you the most personally, just on a personal level? Obviously, you've had amazing people at all kind of levels here. Is there some guest that actually kind of transformed the way you think or just inspired you beyond something that you expected?
I mean, many of the guests have done that, yes, but people probably want to hear like a cool, famous person that they recognize also, which is good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not really.
I think one of the things that I think is stuck with me, not just because he was famous, but because he passed away a few months after recording the interview, was Kobe Bryant. And it wasn't anything he said in particular. It was, we were talking about parenting, and I noticed on my way to the interview, I looked at his Instagram, which I didn't even know he had. And it was all like pictures of his kids playing soccer or something, or basketball, or running track or something. And I thought that was interesting because I was like, wow, I thought this was going to be branded by, I don't know, Nike or something, you know, or like him selling something. And it was just like him and his kid. And I was like, what a normal guy Instagram to have for Kobe Bryant. That's interesting. And I remember after the interview, he was asking me about my kids and I was asking him about his kids. And we were just talking about, it was just two dads talking about having kids, young kids. And I thought this was like the most normal thing. And this is a guy who's had like all the fame, all the women, all the money, all the everything, notoriety. And the thing he cares about most is spending time with his kids and his family. That really struck, because I was like, wait a minute. I can do that right now without being a famous NBA player with $1 billion in my bank account.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. There's this guy who has access to everything and everyone in unlimited amounts. And what he wants to do is watch his kids play soccer.
And that's beautiful because a lot of those people do not. They take advantage of that and you end up having professional babysitters and they're running all over the universe doing whatever.
Yeah.
And that's really disappointing for the kids' sake because as you know, it changes. You know, I was explaining to my son, I was in a band. We got off the road because, you were born. And then I was trying to go DEA, but I didn't want to have to leave. So, and he was apologizing. I'm like, no, you don't understand. My goals weren't
You didn't ruin my career.
You changed my dreams.
You showed me what was more important.
Exactly. So really, it does. Yeah. It is a life-changing experience to have kids. And you have two?
I have two, 3 and 6. And I think about it all the time. I'm like, someone was like, you get to do this and this and this. I was like, no, I got kids. And then they were like, we got to be sure we're not using our family as an excuse not to achieve the things we want in life. And I was like, I don't think I'm using my kids this is the best excuse ever. I want to be home and snuggle with my kids and play Candyland.
Yeah.
And it's like, do I really want to do that? Or is it just an excuse not to achieve? And I was like, nah, I think this is a pretty good, I'm pretty sure I actually want to play Candyland.
That's awesome. You have lucky kids.
Yeah. And
That's awesome.
I don't think I'm going to regret like not being more internet famous and having money, dying with more money, like I'm going to die with more money instead of having my kids around for the holidays. Like, nah, that's not a good trade. It's not worth it at all.
Yeah. Well, what new projects do you have going on? Anything you need to
Absolutely nothing. People always say like, you should write a book. You should do this. You should film this. You're leaving money. My agent loves it. You're leaving money on the table. That's a good thing. I want to leave a lot of money on the table because what that means is I'm choosing my family over the money.
You're trading your time back.
Yeah. So like, yes, I'm leaving that money right on the table. It belongs on the table. Let it sit on the table. It's not going anywhere. It'll be there when my kids are in college and they're like, Dad, we don't have time for you. I got an exam. Then I'll go get that money that's on the table. Right now, they want to hang out with me. They want to fly drones. They want to play Candyland. They want to build Legos. That money can sit on the freaking table, man.
Well, I appreciate you, brother. I brought you a little something here because I'm only a part-time Californian because I don't want to have to pay the taxes here.
Should I say thank you? I don't know what this is yet.
You don't know yet. But this is a representative.
Oh, that's heavy. Jesus.
Representative of some Texas. It's a Texas whiskey that I
nice.
I hope you'll appreciate.
Can I open it now?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
I mean, maybe not drink it. Well, actually, why not?
You can drink it if you want.
I'm gonna have a sip of this.
So it's
this looks awesome.
It's rare because it's not typical of Texas grasses and wheats and peats to be made into whiskey. But
with my bare hands.
Oh,
it's perforated.
We'll edit that out too.
No, this is going to be impossible. This looks pretty awesome. So, do you drink this?
I do drink it.
Yeah,
I love to sip whiskey, and I always like finding interesting stuff. I'll do. My son's grown now; he's 29 years old, so we'll do little taste tests sometimes. And as much as I appreciate,
This guy's
a
coming in with
$200
corks.
whiskey.
He's going with the glasses.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Let's
there
do
you
it.
go.
He's like, stop unwrapping things on your microphone, you
Thank
moron.
you, brother.
Sorry, producer.
Yeah, as much as I appreciate a $200 whiskey, I sometimes in those taste tests you end up coming up with the one that would cost you $45. But
You know what's funny? I've seen this happen before where a wine expert told me this. And he was like, you know what? It was a sommelier. He goes, there's all these. I'm trying not to make noise, but it's impossible.
yeah, it's not a screw off.
I know it's not. I was trying to get my fingers under it, but I really can't do it because I'm sweating. Here we go.
Man, I didn't bring my knife either.
No, it's coming. I just have to twist it a little bit. This sommelier told me, he goes, I was like, hey, I've seen those taste tests where like these wine expert people, they'll drink a bottle of like $2 Chuck, and then they drink this other bottle that's like $45 and they can't tell. And he goes, yeah, that's definitely happened to me before. He's like, it's just, there's cognitive bias. There's all kinds of stuff that can fool you. And he's like, and there's a lot of brands of wine that are cheap and they're just fine.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it with whiskey. I found out is distribution because you in Texas you're looking for a bottle of Blanton's, you're going to spend $400, but you could also go anywhere else. Hold on, there you go. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
You can go,
You can tell
somewhere.
we're old. We both groaned. That was nothing we just did was physically
This is
demanding.
what old people do. Yeah, but it's depending on if you get the distribution. Cheers, brother.
Cheers. Thank you. Oh, that smells good.
And it's all Texas grasses, which you would never know.
Whoa, this is super good.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Why is this so much better? What is in here? Because sometimes you drink a whiskey and you're like, it sounds like something I'm going to clean my hubcaps with it.
Yeah.
This is almost like slightly sweeter, but there's also almost like a cinnamony flavor going on.
Yeah,
What
so
is
I think so too. It's on the note. You get a lot of that vanilla-ish, and you don't get the fire until it's down your throat already.
this is
you get
super
just
good.
a little bit though.
Wow. No, this is super good.
Well, enjoy, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, I will absolutely do that. I'm gonna have to Google how you travel with a bottle of whiskey in your do I check it in my suitcase? I think I have to, but also how's that gonna work?
So if you have problems with that, let me know. I'll have a bottle shipped to you.
Yeah, this is super good.
But,
I'm gonna take a picture.
no
of it,
hard
too.
feelings if you if you struggle getting that back to the casa.
Well,
just let me know.
Worst case, one of my friends is gonna hold on to it for me here in LA, and I'm gonna come back and there's gonna be none left. But whatever.
Yeah, I
I'll
want to
make it
take care of you. You just make sure, man.
Yeah.
It's all good for a brother.
This is really, really good.
I appreciate you burning time with me, and
My pleasure.
I know you're busy as hell, so thought I would at least bring some kind of rep of Texas. If you're ever in Texas, hit a brother up. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Let me know.
Man, this is so good. Thank you very much, man. This is a fun conversation.
What's it take? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Success around the sandbox with second grade rules. A confident fake to make you do what they want when they won't pay the fool. A diplomatic face is the one to see you through. And don't let those bigots take you off your game, but just to let them loose. Just sit here in the front